Hey everybody, how's it going? It's Brian coming at you from house arrest. This week I'm just going to keep this really simple and straightforward. I just wanted to do a kind of a one-shot check-in, personal check-in with you, sort of like a, I guess a meeting style check-in. I haven't been to a meeting since I was in prison, so maybe this will serve as kind of my own little version of that. All right, so what's up with me? What's going on with you, Brian? Let's see. I'm doing well. I'm definitely feeling the pull of restlessness and excitement for getting my ankle monitor off. It's been over 2.5 years since the day I was arrested, and I have about 4.5 months left right now before I'm eligible to get the ankle monitor off. Now, when that date comes, which is called my PED, which is parole eligibility date. When that date comes, which is September 15th or 16th, I can't remember which one, I am eligible to get the ankle monitor off. That will be my 3-year mark on my 3 to 10 year prison sentence. Now, if me getting out on that date has anything to do at all with me, then I'm gonna get out on that date, because there's literally no thing that has happened the entire time since I've been arrested that would be any reason to deter me from getting out on that date. I've done everything right. I've never had any issues, no things, no issues, no violations, no hiccups, no nothing. Just a straight shot from arrested to now doing everything that I'm supposed to absolutely perfectly. I also have no prior criminal history to this at all, so it's my very first offense, so that doesn't factor into a reason why they would keep me either. So naturally, I'm getting excited for this date to come. I'm kind of like, in my head, I realize that I've been sort of starting to count on that's what's going to happen on that date. However, I have to keep in mind that you never know with these people. You never know. They could, however the board or whatever decides what happens with this kind of stuff, I don't know, and it could easily be up to how someone's feeling that day when my paper comes in front of their face and they're in a bad mood and they decide to, make this guy stay longer, right? I can't think of one reason that they could justify keeping me in if the decision is based on my behavior alone. But again, you never know with these people. I don't know what their process is. I don't know how it works. So I gotta remind myself, that's the thing. I gotta always keep reminding myself that they could definitely not let me out on that date. They could be like, yeah, we'll keep you in another 6 months, a year, whatever. I have that's the 3-year mark, but my sentence is 3 to 10 years. So if they wanted to, they could keep me in for the whole time. So I just have to remember that nothing is guaranteed in this situation, regardless of what I have to do with it. So having said that, it's just kind of challenging because I've sort of had this date in my head, I realized this whole time, that this is the date that I'm going to get the ankle monitor off. And that's the plan that's sort of been in my head. And as I come closer to it and I start to get much more restless in this situation, as the time gets closer, you start to find all the reasons why you can't wait to get out of this and how it's like intolerable. I have to remind myself and calm down and realize that, hey, they could totally not let you out on this date. They could totally keep the ankle monitor on if they want to. And you got to be mentally prepared for that. And you got to know that whatever they say, you can't break your good thing that you've got going on here with yourself. That's a huge deal when we talk about struggling with addiction, especially, right? You can't allow the things that are going on around you in your circumstance, especially the things that you don't have any control over, affect how you are dealing with yourself. Because if you rely on your expectations for things in your circumstance to go a certain way in order for you to be stable and okay, then there's always gonna be something that shows up that's not gonna be to your liking and is gonna destabilize you. And then you're gonna be at risk for backsliding psychologically. All right, I have to go do laundry real quick at the laundromat. I'll be right back. I get to be here just long enough to get this done and then run back home. But I absolutely love coming to the laundromat every week because it's just nice to get out and be somewhere. All right, we're back. This is kind of how I've been thinking about sobriety, or at least my experience with it so far. I imagine this line, this threshold, right? And then everything below this line is when you're in the realm of potentially gonna use drugs or engage in your addictive behavior. And then everything above this line, you're kind of outside of being in the potential to make that decision of relapsing or whatever, for whatever your thing is. So when you're using, you're obviously down here, right? And then you're going like this, and time is going this way on the graph. And you're going like this, and you stop using maybe, but you're still way down here, like anything could bump you back into using again. Then you get to a point where you kind of start to cross this threshold, right? And every time you pop up above here, you're in a mental state where you're just not gonna make that decision at that moment, right? You're feeling strong, you're feeling confident, but then you're doing this a little bit. And over time, if you keep working on yourself and you keep developing, your wellness and working on your day-to-day well-being and figuring out what works for you that brings you fulfillment outside of your fleeting, empty indulgences, which are like the habitual using of things, drug use, whatever, you start to build up to where you're kind of spending most of your time or all of your time above this line. And you can experience this space where you're just like day to day is going by and there's just no possibility that you're gonna choose to use drugs, right? But if you stop working on yourself, you kind of can start to do this. And I've noticed that before, like even in the last couple of weeks when I'm like, I'm up here, I'm doing good, but then I'll stop eating my diet or whatever that I'm into, or I'll stop adhering to my schedule. I'll start spending time on my phone instead of meditating. And I immediately, even after just a couple of days of that, I kind of feel this start to plateau and kind of go down a little bit, right? And while I'm nowhere near here, while I'm up here, I immediately recognize, oh, this is like, if I keep doing this, then I'm going to gradually go down, until I get to the point where I'm just like feeling so shitty about myself and feeling whatever that I'm like, wow, actually drugs sound like they might help me feel better right now. When I'm up here, I'm like, I feel great. Drugs are not gonna help me at all. Like I don't even have the desire to use them. But if I stop doing those things, I can see like, okay, I can see why. Like, okay, now I want ice cream because I feel like it'll make me feel better because I'm not like feeling good. Now I want to veg out and play video games all day instead of work on my YouTube stuff. And then, eventually you're just like, you know what, that Kratom at the store sounds pretty good right now. I could get away with a beer or something. That's where you're getting back down here. But the point of that is the decline, the psychological backsliding is gradual. As long as you're placing your well-being in the realm of things that you can control. I can control if I'm gonna exercise every day. I can control how I'm gonna spend my time. I can control whether I'm gonna veg out on my phone or whether I'm going to sit and meditate or read a book. What the dangerous thing to do is to place our well-being in circumstances that are outside of our control, right? Where we're depending on, as I was saying earlier, we're depending on circumstances to be a certain way for us to be okay. And I think if you make that mistake, where you're like, things are going good, everything's working out, great, I'm making all the money, I'm getting all the things, I'm getting all the promotions, everybody loves me, and that's where your well-being is, when that stuff is taken away, that's when you can be up here, or think you're up here, and just go like this. What I'm saying is with my circumstance, and getting to the point where I am getting close to where I could get off of the ankle monitor, where I feel like I should be getting off of the ankle monitor, I gotta be careful, because I don't want my expectation that that's going to happen to be something that when it doesn't causes me to go poof. Now, I really am not worried that that's the case. I know that if they deny me and they make me stay on the ankle monitor longer, I'm sure I'll be absolutely livid about it. I'm sure I'll be really frustrated and annoyed and all of that. But I really don't think that it's going to make me cross that threshold into wanting to use. Because I think at this point I kind of just realized that like that's never gonna make me feel better. Ultimately, it's not gonna make me feel better, so it's like not even fun to do it for a second because I know like it's just not gonna help. And that's the state of mind I'm in, at least about it right now. Like I really can't imagine that would make me feel compelled to go fuck it and use drugs. I know enough now to know what actually does help in those situations, and what does help is for me to just continue to take care of the things that are under my control. That is the most fulfilling thing ever. And you know what? It's also pretty cool that it just so happens that most of the time when I'm taking care of the things that are under my control, the things that are not, that are out of my control, actually work out a lot more often in my favor, just due to the fact that like I'm showing up in the world a certain way because I'm taking care of myself and taking care of what I do have under my control. Opportunities just start to open up and stuff. And I know that that's the opposite of what happens when you're on drugs. Everything starts to close down, opportunities shut down, because you're showing up in this certain way where you're unreliable, tweaked out, like messed up, like, and people know, even whether they know or not, they know, and things just start to shut down in your world. I'm not interested in that. And so even if these people screw me over and, you know, try to keep me away from, you know, getting out there and being in the world for a little bit longer, whatever, they can do their thing, you know, whatever they want to do, I'll be fine. So anyway, that's kind of just how I'm feeling today, right now. And I know this was kind of a weird video because it just was a rant, basically. I do want to say a couple shout outs real quick. Okay, so I didn't even really know what the super thanks thing was. I didn't understand it until I started seeing some of these comments show up that were like these super thanks comments. And I was like, oh, and that's crazy to me that I'm getting these super thanks. So I just wanted to shout out each person who did that because that's so kind of you. All right, Elizabeth Scranny 2942. Thank you so much. You were my first super thanks ever, and I appreciate it so much. I can't even tell you. Ben Burns 5995. Thank you so much for your super thanks. Thank you, you're awesome. Lauren Rubino 4278. Lauren, that's been one of my favorite names for as long as I can remember, so I love you, Lauren. Thank you so much. Linkletter Tammy. Thank you. Thank you so much for your super thanks. Antoinette RN 569. Antoinette, are you an RN? Thank you for your service as an RN, and also thank you for your super thanks. You're awesome. And last but not least, Dorky Dane. Thank you so much, Dorky Dane. You're awesome. Are you in Denmark or something? Maybe? That's crazy to me. Thank you so much for your super thanks. Also, shout out to my friend Leo, just because he's awesome. Don't worry, Leo. I'm going to get your song of the week up here soon, but this just isn't the video for it. All right, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much. The song of the week this week is Ambulance by Blur. It's just been on my mind. I've been thinking about it. It's not the craziest song ever, but I just really like the bass line at the end, and there's just a little groove they get into. I think it's cooler than it sounds at first, and I've just been listening to it a lot this week, so that's why it's the song of the week. All right, next week I'll have a proper video for you. This was just kind of a weird week, so I just didn't really get around to doing this, but I didn't want to leave you hanging. Thank you. I'll see you guys next week.